The Book of Exodus, a journey from slavery to freedom. 1. Introduction. The story continues. The Book of Exodus picks up right where Genesis leaves off. The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the family God had chosen, have grown into a large and thriving people. But time has brought change. The favor Joseph once enjoyed in Egypt has long faded. Now, a new Pharaoh, who does not remember Joseph, rules Egypt with a heavy hand. Fearful of the Israelites' growing numbers, he enslaves them, forcing them into hard labor. 3. The confrontation. God versus Pharaoh. Moses' return to Egypt sparks a dramatic showdown between God's power and Pharaoh's stubborn pride. Moses and Aaron deliver God's message, "Let my people go." Pharaoh's heart, hardened by arrogance and fear, refuses. In response, God sends 10 devastating plagues upon Egypt. Each plague is not random. It strikes at the heart of Egypt's economy, society, and even their gods. The Nile, Egypt's lifeblood, turns to blood. Frogs, gnats, and flies invade. Livestock perish. Boils afflict people and animals. Hail destroys crops. Locusts devour what remains. Darkness covers the land. Each plague escalates, revealing Egypt's vulnerability and God's supremacy. The final and most terrible plague strikes the death of every Egyptian firstborn. On the night of the plague, God instructs the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, so the angel of death will pass over their homes. This event, known as Passover, becomes a defining moment in Israel's identity and is still commemorated to this day. Finally, Pharaoh relents. He orders the Israelites to leave. After centuries of bondage, they are free, not fleeing in secrecy, but departing boldly, carrying with them Egypt's treasures given to them by a defeated people. 4. The Exodus, crossing the Red Sea. Freedom, however, is not secure. Pharaoh, regretting his decision, musters his army and pursues the Israelites. Trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's forces, the Israelites despair. But God is not done. In one of the most iconic miracles of Scripture, God parts the Red Sea. Walls of water rise on either side, and Israel passes through on dry ground. When Pharaoh's chariots follow the waters, return engulfing them, Israel's deliverance is complete. Standing on the far shore, Moses and the Israelites break into a song of triumph, the song of the sea praising God as their deliverer and warrior. This moment seals their identity. They are no longer slaves, but a free people under the care of the Almighty. 5. The wilderness. Testing and trust. Freedom brings new challenges, The journey through the wilderness tests Israel's faith and reveals their deep-seated fears and flaws. Food and water become issues. The people grumble and complain, longing for the comforts of Egypt. Yet God provides manna from heaven, water from a rock quail to eat. More importantly, God provides His presence. A pillar of cloud guides them by day. A pillar of fire lights their way by night. At Mount Sinai, God calls them into covenant relationship. 6. Mount Sinai, covenant and law. At Sinai, God reveals Himself in thunder, lightning, and smoke. The mountain quakes and the people tremble. God gives them the 10 Commandments not as arbitrary rules, but as guidelines for life in covenant with Him. The commandments set Israel apart as a holy nation, reflecting God's justice, mercy, and holiness. The covenant is ratified through sacrifices and ceremonies. Moses acts as the mediator between God and the people climbing the mountain to receive further instructions for Israel's worship and communal life. God's presence is to dwell among His people, and so He gives Moses detailed plans for the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary. Every piece of the tabernacle, from the Ark of the Covenant to the menorah, is rich with symbolic meaning, pointing to God's desire to live among His people. 7. Rebellion and mercy. Even with God's clear guidance, Israel's hearts are fickle. In Moses' absence, they craft a golden calf and worship it, a blatant act of idolatry. Moses' intercession saves them from immediate destruction, but consequences follow. Yet God's mercy shines through. He renews the covenant, and His presence continues to lead them. The tabernacle is constructed, and God's glory fills it. Israel is reminded that God is both holy and merciful, righteous, and forgiving. 8. Themes and theology of Exodus. Exodus is more than a historical account. It is a theological masterpiece. Themes of deliverance, covenant presence, and holiness run throughout. God is shown as the sovereign Lord over all nations, not just Israel. The Exodus story becomes the foundational narrative for Israel's identity and faith. Throughout the Old Testament, prophets and psalmists recall God's mighty acts in Egypt as proof of His power and love. The festivals, especially Passover, anchor Israel's memory to this great deliverance. In the New Testament, Exodus finds deeper fulfillment. Jesus is portrayed as the ultimate Passover lamb, whose sacrifice delivers humanity from sin. His death and resurrection echo the pattern of redemption established in Exodus, rescue from bondage, and the birth of a new people. 9. Conclusion. A journey for all generations. The journey of Exodus is not confined to ancient history. It is a journey that continues in the lives of believers today. It reminds us that God sees our suffering, hears our cries, and acts on our behalf. It challenges us to trust Him in the wilderness, to walk in covenant faithfulness, and to remember that true freedom is found not just in deliverance, but in living in relationship with God. Exodus calls us to be a people who reflect God's justice and mercy, who carry His presence into the world. It shows us that redemption is not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new life shaped by His love. From the oppression of Egypt to the glory of Sinai, from the cries of slaves to the song of the redeemed Exodus, tells the story of a God who rescues, redeems, and restores, a God who still leads His people today.